Hi, everyone. My name is Tanea Moore, and I'm the policy manager here at Cash. I joined Cash in September of last year. Prior to joining Cash, I worked as chief of staff for the office of Delegate Stephanie Smith. Just to give a little background about myself, I went to Morgan State University for undergrad, where I studied philosophy with a concentration in pre-law. I graduated in spring of 2018. I recently graduated from the University of Baltimore with my master's in public administration with a concentration in public policy. Before we get started with our 2021 legislative session wrap up, I just want to take some time to introduce you all to our amazing team. First, we have Lona Muckle. Lona is our policy and development associate. Lona works on advocacy and policy initiatives in Baltimore City and across Maryland. This involves working in Annapolis, researching multiple policy areas, and outreach to communities. Lona also provides support for the Financial Education and Capability Commission and advocacy coalitions across Maryland. Next is Christine Galleza, who is our policy intern. Christine is set to complete her MSW at the University of Maryland this spring. Christine supports our team in our efforts to complete research and engage in advocacy in order to continue to promote policies to empower low to moderate income Marylanders. So this session, the 2021 legislative session, was historic in so many ways. Last year session ended early due to the concerns around COVID-19. This year, those concerns continued, which is why everything was held virtually. This virtual session introduced many changes, including virtual hearings, limited staff in buildings, limited in-person advocacy from the public and advocates. And with everything being virtual, we had a lot of things that we had to get used to, but we were able to make everything work. We worked really hard to maintain our relationships by having meetings with legislators, staffers, advocates, and different organizations prior to session started, because we knew things will be different this session. So the 2021 session ended on April 12th, 2021. Thanks to our wonderful team, which includes myself, Robin, Lona, and Christine, we were able to track 103 bills, and we supported 21 bills. Out of the 21 bills that we supported, 17 of them were passed. Compared to last year, where the policy team consists of Robin and Lona, where they were able to track 24 bills and 11 out of those 24 bills were passed. This year, Robin continuously tells us how, because we have a full team, we were able to do different things. We were able to multitask and divide up and just be involved in so many different initiatives where compared to last session, that wasn't necessarily the case. So I'm very grateful for our full team. All right, so now I'm going to get into our priority wins. The first bill deals with making work pay, Senate Bill 496, which is the Governor's Relief Act. So Cash, along with the Maryland Center on Economic Policy, supported expansions the Relief Act made to Maryland's EITC. With this bill, single filers without dependents who qualify for the federal EITC will now receive a 100% match in Maryland EITC amount for the next 3 tax years. The provisions of the bill reaches low wage earners, including first-time expectant mothers, non-custodial parents, aging out foster youth, and young veterans. Under this legislation, filers with dependents who qualify for the federal EITC will now receive a 45% match in the Maryland EITC amount, up to 28% for the next 3 tax years. The effect of this policy will help raise workers with families out of poverty, provide more resources to benefit the health and education of children, and also help stimulate the economy. Our next bill relates to supporting immigrant taxpayers, Senate Bill 218. After efforts to include I-10 filers in the Relief Act failed, this bill was amended and now allows low-income tax-paying immigrant households who qualify for the federal EITC to receive the Maryland EITC for the next 3 tax years. This legislation also creates a $500 child tax credit for extremely low-income families with children 17 and under with a disability. Our last bill deals with ending abuse in the Save for College program, Senate Bill 779. So additional guidelines were added to the legislation of the State 529 Contribution Match Program, known as Save for College. So under this legislation, administrators will now apply a lifetime limit of $9,000, use adjusted gross income for a more accurate figure for income. Account holders must now be Maryland residents, and beneficiaries must now be 26 years or younger. These changes we hope will prevent abusive practices of a few bad actors and also will allow the program to function as originally intended, which is to help low to moderate income families save for future college expenses. Now I'm going to get into our supported wins led by our amazing partners. So the first bill deals with protecting patients from medical debt, House Bill 365, Senate Bill 514. Our policy team is a part of the Medical Debt Coalition, where we advocated to protect patients from medical debt collection practices. Under this legislation, hospitals are now prohibited from placing a lien on any patient's home. And also for patients who qualify for free or reduced cost care, hospitals may not garnish wages or charge interest or other fees on their medical debt. Under this legislation, hospitals are also forbidden from submitting negative information to consumer reporting agencies regarding those patients, and this also includes uninsured patients as well. We will continue to work with the Medical Debt Coalition, and I will get into that later once I start to talk about our unfinished business. Our next bill relates to providing legal tax assistance to low-income Marylanders, House Bill 421, Senate Bill 480. The legal nature of taxes is difficult for low to moderate income households to navigate. The passage of this legislation ensures that the tax clinics for low-income Marylanders, which are currently ran by the University of Maryland School of Law, the University of Baltimore School of Law, and the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service, will continue to have funding in order to offer advice regarding tax obligations for our low to moderate income families and households. Next, the next bill relates to making legal name change safer, Senate Bill 581, House Bill 39. So previously, people who wished to legally change their name, not in connection to marriage or divorce, were required to publicly publish their intent. This requirement creates personal safety and privacy risk, especially for those individuals who are transgender and survivors of domestic violence. So now under this legislation, an individual may submit a waiver and forego creating a public record of the name change. We worked with Trans Maryland on this legislation. We are so thankful that we were able to be a part of this amazing, amazing initiative. So our next legislation relates to reducing fees for prechild defendants. So as we may know, there's a plethora of fines and fees in the criminal justice system. But under this legislation, people who are deemed indigent will no longer have to bear the burden of home detention monitoring fees during the pretrial phase. We worked with Jobs Opportunity Task Force on this legislation, and we just want to thank them for taking lead on this legislation. One of our last bills that was led by our awesome partners relates to providing low-income renters a right to legal counsel during evictions. We worked with Renters United on this. So previously, the state did not provide tenants with legal advocacy during an eviction. And now under this legislation, renters who earn 50% or less of the area median income are entitled access to a lawyer while facing eviction proceedings. And additionally, landlords must now provide tenants with notice of intentions to file for eviction 10 days prior to the filing. And again, we will continue to work with Renters United, and I will just provide more information about that once I discuss our unfinished business. So that's it for our key legislation from this past session. So now I can get into our unfinished business. So as I mentioned earlier, we have unfinished business that we will continue to focus on and work on leading up to next session. Some of the topics that we are continuing to focus on includes baby bonds, merchant cash advance, car insurance reform, medical debt, and so much more. So for example, just to give you a few examples, one legislation that was introduced last session, which relates to protecting small businesses from high cost lending, House Bill 664, Senate Bill 532, did not pass out of session this year. However, we will continue to advocate for protecting small businesses by regulating sales-based financing transactions. We will continue to work with Kaylee from Maryland Retailers Association to see how we can be helpful and help push things forward. Another example of legislation that was introduced this session but did not pass was House Bill 168, also House Bill 21. So under current law, auto insurance companies are permitted to use factors unrelated to a person's driving record in determining rates. So we will continue to work to reduce discriminatory practices in establishing rates. And we will also continue to promote access to transportation by prohibiting insurance companies from using credit history to establish rates. Another example is under evictions. So as I mentioned earlier, House Bill 18 passed session and passed out of the Maryland General Assembly this year, which is great. However, House Bill 31, which relates to securing funding for legal counsel to renters facing evictions, did not pass out of session. So that means that the financial resources in order to implement House Bill 18 is not there right now. So we will continue to support the priorities of Renters United and other tenant groups. We have bi-weekly meetings with Renters United, and we will continue to help them push forward and see what we can do in order to get some justice for our Marylanders who are facing evictions, especially during this time. I guess I'll just give one other, I'm just gonna wrap it up, give one other example. So House Bill 41, which was Delegate Stephanie Smith's Maryland State Bank Task Force bill, passed out of session, which is great. Cash had an opportunity to testify in support of this legislation. So now we will meet with her office to see what are the next steps for the task force and how we can be helpful. For more information about our priority wins, our supported wins, and our unfinished business, I encourage you to review our 2021 legislative wrap-up, which can be found on our website. Thank you all, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.